This video is bad. This video is very bad. It's called The Truth About 7 out of 10 game reviews, and it's very bad. It is very bad. My god, this video is very bad. Alana Pierce worked for IGN as well, so keep that in mind. Every single argument, keep that in mind.
I can't believe it's happened again. I'm sick of seeing it everywhere. It haunts me. It's in my nightmares. It's in all of my waking
Where's
hours.
my tea? Where's
it's
my tea?
everywhere. The number 7. Another games journalist has given another video game a 7 out of 10. And today I'm going to tell you why that's fairly common, actually, because there is, like, a pretty good reason for it. Or maybe...
Spoilers, there's not a good reason. It's a shitty reason.
Not necessarily a good reason. I'm not trying to color this reason in any direction. It's just a reason that...
She's gonna call it as like, well, it's only natural, so it's not gonna be a good reason, but it's gonna be like, well, it's only a natural reason that it happens. No.
You see 7 out of 10s as being common, to the extent where we now sometimes refer to
But I'm
7
going
as
way
like
ahead.
an average, which is weird, but allow me to explain. First, if you don't know me, sometimes people meme on me for mentioning this, but you'd be surprised the amount of people who comment on my videos who don't even know what my current job is and assume that I'm a full-time YouTuber, let alone a job I used to have, so that's why I sometimes say it. Turns out people don't know stuff. And I used to work at IGN. I was a writer there for 3 whole years, which makes me exceptionally qualified. The most
that's
professional,
who
lauded
can,
source
who
on the
knows
internet,
why the 7
educated
happened.
to such a high degree. I started, and I feel like that really sells it. The one person on the planet equipped to tell you that step 1 before we get into the rest of this video, some of y'all take game reviews way too seriously. I will explain why the 7 out of 10 is so common and why it's memed because it's so common. And
some of you take game reviews way too seriously. Just saying that you as a writer has a job there, you know, your job is to inform the consumer about the quality of the game. Yes, it is subjective a lot of the time. There are objective things you can say about the quality of the game, of course, but mostly, yes, it is subjective. But you can be qualified if, for example, you play a lot of action games, third-person shooters. You are probably qualified to write about those games, you know? You're not gonna be playing FPS games and then jump in and try to review an RTS game. It wouldn't work because you don't have the qualification and you don't have the insight into how these genres work if you don't play them a lot. So, you know, your job as a writer is to inform consumer from making spendings that they might not like. Your job is to save money or, you know, get someone to buy something to have fun. Like, yeah, this is worth your money or not worth your money. And $70 is, if you might not want to, like, think about it, but for a lot of people in more than half the world, it is a lot of money. That's a lot of money. $70 is not an insignificant sum of money that you can throw away every day for most people. Just saying. So, saying that some people take reviews way too seriously, I don't know. Also, if you are passionate about a hobby and someone is there making money off of your hobby and misrepresenting the thing, like the product, your favorite game or something, you will get heated because, you know, someone reviewing might lack the qualifications and not know what they're talking about. It is natural to feel upset about this. Let's move on.
And that it doesn't make sense. I feel like so many conversations about game reviews would be like so much more chill if you just remember that it's just some fucking guy's opinion.
Everyone is just some fucking guy, by the way. Like, in the world, just everyone is some fucking guy. Even, I know you will say it, but even Hideo Kojima, to a lot of people, is just some fucking guy. To you, maybe he's a genius, you know, the God-given gift to our world to make genius games, Kajombo. But for a lot of people, he's still gonna be just some fucking guy. Because again, this is very subjective. And everyone is just some fucking guy in this world. You know what? But most people still have their job and they do their job.
Used to be that fucking guy. It's just some fucking guy has an opinion on something. That's all a game review is. The fucking guy who writes the review is no more or less qualified to have an opinion on any other fucking guy on the street about a game. That is my genuine opinion.
YouTube game reviews sort of made game journals obsolete. Also, a lot of streams that you can just go and watch the gameplay yourself without really having to sift through a lot of text without any substance, because a lot of the reviews is just text without any substance. You can just see the game yourself. Even without playing the game, you can just see the game yourself, and you can think, yeah, you know what, this looks fun. Like the first hour of this game looks fun. I might actually play it, because games journals are very bad about conveying what is fun and what's not fun. And also, again, just some guy, you are paid to write a review. If you were just some random guy, we wouldn't need you. And now, you know, you are way more like just a reviewer is way more obsolete now than it was before. But before, usually, you would have some qualification because you are good at writing. You probably know what you're talking about just by the virtue of reviewing a lot of games. You know, you have the experience. You can compare one thing to another because, you know, we as humans often compare one thing to another. That's how it goes. It's just in our nature. And saying that, oh, you're just some fucking guy, someone who just plays Call of Duty for 2 hours a day will not be a good person to tell you why some other game is good or bad, because they don't have the qualification. That's just pretty much it. You can get a first impressions from the guy, like, oh, I never played these games. I only play Call of Duty, but this shit is boring. I hate Europa Universalis 4. And, you know, that opinion, it kind of doesn't matter because there's no qualification. Was originally our only source. Yeah. Well, also, Steam is getting more demos right now, so it's also pretty cool. But yeah, at some point, our only option to know what the game is was to read a review. And now, especially with how a lot of game developers would send early keys to some streamers and YouTubers, that's also making these obsolete. And people and games that don't do that are very insecure about the quality of their product, and they're hiding something, which is a bad news. And the last game that does this is New Dragon Age. Just saying.
That is the opinion that I held when I did it and got paid for it. I personally do not consider game reviews to be journalism, even though they technically are by definition of the word. But again, it's just some fucking guy's opinion, man. And they certainly are not objective and do not strive to be and shouldn't be, because they are opinion-based. They are not reporting, they're just, oh, fucking guy has an opinion. And to be clear, before somebody gets upset with me, not being sexist here, women can also be some fucking guy.
That's like super irrelevant, but that sounds extremely dumb. Which means the entire culture of criticism and analysis of any media goes out of the window because, well, it's not all objective. But you can be objective in your game review. You can be objective. You can say that something works or doesn't work. And, you know, fresh off the Rags' video, just small things about the game really makes you think that, wow, they didn't spend any time developing the game and checking what it is. Just a small thing is, you have healing vials. You have vials that you use to heal. And on UI, they show you the number of it. It is, for example, you know, 5. You don't know how much you can carry. It never says your maximum. There's no way to see it. Absolutely no way. So you're just sitting there thinking with talents you can level it. It's just small things like that. You never know. You gotta remember it, you know. And you can look at that UI element and be like, yeah, that's kind of weird that you have to go through 10 menus to see it. And again, in some games it also is like that. For example, Souls games, but there is a hard cap that you, especially from the latest games, that you set yourself up, you know? The upgrades and allocation of Estus, you are doing this kind of yourself there. So that gets in your mind, but just from looking at from the outside, a lot of the UI elements is just like, how much you can carry, you have no idea. And it is a valid criticism to say that, yeah, well, this UI element is not very helpful to me. It is serviceable, but it's not very helpful. Is this an objective or subjective opinion? Like, it is objective that you don't know the amount of healing items you might have at any given point, and you might get confused. Now, does it matter to someone? That is subjective. But objectively, it's just, it's there.
Like I said, I used to be some fucking guy. Gender neutral. It's really just that the guy who does it for IGN has an editorial policy
Yeah,
that he
yeah,
has to
very
abide
funny,
by,
very
probably
funny.
has more writing experience than the average person, and more people will read it. But that is really the only difference. No one's opinion on a video game is any more or less valid than anybody else's. The only exception to that, and like I feel that way about films and stuff too, the only exception to that is when, in my opinion, someone who has a ton of expertise is the one reviewing something. Tarantino.
You should be the one with expertise, and you do not need to be a creator in that scene or a sphere to critique something and have an expertise. You don't. Because otherwise, you couldn't criticize anyone's cooking until you can cook, but you can tell that it tastes like shit. You can tell that it tastes like shit. You can tell that the food is bad, and you don't need to be like a 5-star chef to do that. A lot of what's the word? Sommelier, whatever. The wine tasting people. They're not really producing wine. They don't know that. They don't know the intricacies of it all, but they still are very experienced in that sphere. You don't need to be someone who produces the product to critique it, because again, your critical eye and the ability to deconstruct something on some level does not equal that you need to be the creator in that space. Just saying.
Not just some fucking guy. Miyazaki, Hideo Kojima, not just
They were just some fucking guys, though. At some point, they were just some fucking guys starting out. It is irrelevant.
some fucking guy. They go beyond the sphere of some fucking guy in which all of the rest of us exist, but otherwise, 100% of us, IGN, GameSpot, kind of funny, you in my comment section, we're all just some fucking guy. It's actually pretty crazy when you think about it. Like, really, the whole world is just run by just a guy. Like, what are any of us doing? Think about how many things you don't know how to do or how many mistakes that you've made, and you're still here, and that's just the same as the rest of us. None of us have any idea what's really going on.
Don't forget that this is not a defense piece for game reviewers, but we're starting out with this interesting manipulation of nothing really matters. Nothing matters. You shouldn't really think about it at all. Why shouldn't I? Why shouldn't I? Like, I don't consider myself just some fucking guy. I have some expertise because I've played games my entire life. I know what I like, what I don't like, and why I like it. I've seen countless games with just countless game mechanics. I know what I like and what I don't like. I know what works for me and what doesn't work for me. You can't call me just some fucking guy. To me, to myself, I am not just some fucking guy. So it's very weird to put just this as a thing first, because it kind of devalues the argument of you shouldn't care about the 7 because it's all irrelevant. Then why are you making a video for 21 minutes explaining why 7 is common, and you're spending 3 minutes saying that, well, game journalists, they are not very important? That is a bit of a misdirection here.
We're just some fucking guy who got a job. There it is. Okay, but first, 7 out of 10. Why is it so common? Why does
We're
it feel
finally
like 7
getting
out
to
of
the
10
point
has
of the
become
video.
the average video game score, at the very least, in the AAA gaming space? Why is everything a 7 out of 10? Why is it so common? What happened to the other half of the scale?
Because 7 should be good. 7 should be good. 7 should be even pretty good. 6 should be above average. 7 should be good. 5 should be painfully average. Everything below is bad in some way. Star Wars, even judging by the Ubisoft catalog of games, is below average, way below average. It is a 4. It doesn't have any compelling mechanics compared to any other game that they've made. It's an object failure for a game company that does exactly those games. A open world, sandbox, third-person shooters with stealth elements, exploration, and all that stuff. It is a way worse game than any other Assassin's Creed that they've made. So it is objectively below average. And it's not a 7. It cannot be a 7. It just can't be a 7.
Why aren't we using it? In my opinion, it actually is, because 7 out of 10 kind of has...
Brother, what's happening with the quality? Why is 144p? Can I get at least this? Or is my VPN dying? My VPN is dying, guys.
has become average for AAA games, but maybe not for the reasons that most people would think. Important to note before we get into this that different websites do have different scales.
Doesn't
A
matter.
9 for IGN
We're
is
talking
not the
about
same as a
IGN.
9 for some other website. You have any feelings about reviews that you look up what their individual scales mean. One thing that I see people mistake all the time is that they think a 10 out of 10 is a perfect score or that it's a perfect game. For IGN, for example, a 10 does not mean perfect. It just means masterpiece, because no game is perfect except for Portal. And maybe
I still think that saying no game is perfect is a loaded thing, because what is a perfect game? Chess is pretty much a perfect game. I would say that again, Tetris is pretty much a perfect game. It was kind of figured out. And it is, at this point, timeless. Simplistic, maybe, but they're pretty much games without a flaw. There is a game, the mechanic is there, it's solid, it's there. You know, maybe you can iterate on the original and whatever, but these games are pretty much 10. You cannot say that chess is bad because it's buggy or something. Is chess also like less complex than Star Wars? Well, in the mechanics department, like I guess there's less to do, but the strategic depth there is just pretty deep. It goes pretty deep. So again, it's a loaded argument, and it's all in service to lower your expectations. You know, like, oh, no game is perfect, and that's why 7 is also, it's pretty good there, and you know, it's like no game is perfect, so there's a lot of good games, and there's more games on 7 scale, and just don't look at, don't think of it. Then think of it as an objective scale of like 1 to 10 being bad and great. No.
also Deadly Premonition and Doom 93 and Tunic. But that's the list of perfect video games completed. Unless you have anything to add, editor of this video, Jacob Fullerton. The floor is yours.
Gungan Frontier. All your favorite characters are there. You get to play with Fombas and Falumpa sets and plant trees on the moon. And the UI is a clam. 10 out of 10. Perfect game.
There we go. Comprehensive list of perfect.
I need to do this. I am sorry. I need to do this.
X-Wings!
Classic.
Death Star! Grand Moff Tarkin! We go back to Yavin 4. Remember the Rebel base?
I clapped.
I clapped when I saw it.
I clapped when I saw Darth Vader!
ATSTs! ATSTs!
It broke new ground!
Alright. Let's go back to this.
Perfect video games. No, really, none exist. 10 out of 10 means masterpiece, right? It is a masterpiece. It doesn't mean it's perfect. But for whatever website that you read reviews from or whatever discourse you're involved in, I recommend checking out their individual scales. And if you look at a 7 on the IGN scale, 7 means good. Not great, just good. When I worked there and
7 means good. We gotta remember this, because this is a puff piece for the Star Wars game.
reviewed video games and movies and stuff sometimes, Dan Stapleton, the executive editor of reviews at IGN, told me to treat what score I would have if I was having trouble as what would I say if someone walked up to me on the street and asked. So a 7 would be, yeah, it's good. It's not great.
Yeah, it's good. So again, someone comes up to you and like, do you think this game is worth it? And you are, without a shadow of a doubt, would recommend a person to spend $70 on a broken product that is unfinished, pretty much worse than anything else the company has produced before. It's just bad because it's good enough for you, right? You think it's good. You really want to say that you would do that. Because if you would do that, I am sorry, you are just very wrong, very wrong. What even is this argument? Let's hear it more. Maybe I'm missing something.
It's good. It's good. Because, to be honest, assigning a score to however many thousand words you've written where you try to really explain every single nuance of this thing and why you do or don't like it is extremely difficult and sucky, but it's just...
No, it's not. Again, it's not. It isn't. It isn't. 7 would be a game that is worth your time and money. It is good. You know, maybe it's an experience for one time. Maybe it's flawed experience, but it's good. What's good about the latest Star Wars game that you are defending here? What is good there? There is nothing good there. It's bad. Like, the gameplay is stale. The animations are pretty much broken. Half the game is broken. Doesn't matter if you're, patching it or not. There's just nothing there. It's a shell of a game. And you are saying it's good. Okay.
really important to audiences. Like, it gets clearly so much engagement from these websites. People want the opinions distilled into a little number. It generates so much discourse. It generated this video, technically, and probably many videos about 7 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 game reviews that exist on this platform. Audiences clearly are very attached to the review score. For writers, it sucks. So when you're having trouble being like, I don't know what these words distill to, how am I going to figure that out? A good way to do it is, what would you say?
You shouldn't be working in the industry then. If you are working in the industry where there is a scale for you to rate the game and you cannot rate the game that you are working on and you are writing a review, you shouldn't be working there. It is that simple. If you cannot put it on paper, you shouldn't be working there. Why are we talking about this then? It's too hard for me. Then don't do that. You are not cut out for this work. If you cannot get your enjoyment on some scale, then just don't work there. I can't.
Someone came up to you on the street. So a 7 is, it's good. It's not great, it's good. And firstly, that does encompass a lot of video games, especially when you're a reviewer. People who review games or play games professionally are, by virtue of the thing that is their job, playing a lot more video games than most people.
Okay.
Now, before you get mad at me for that, it's just that they're allowed to do it during work hours. So they're playing more video games than every other human who has a job that is not in the games industry because they're allowed to play games at work.
Yeah.
So like by default, they have more hours on any given day in which they can/are playing video games. But
which means they have more qualification than a normal person that doesn't have this many hours in video games, because you should be playing video games for a living, so you should know what works and what doesn't work in game design sense. You should know this. If you are specifically working and looking at the game with a critical eye to understand why the mechanics are there, what do they serve? Do they work together? Do they like, match this part of the game with this part of the game, like melee and range system in some games? Do they work together? Do they not work together? What's the problem in there? Is it to the detriment or to the benefit of the game? You should know that, because you should be looking at the game and trying to dissect the game design reasoning behind it. If you cannot do that, then why are you writing about video games? And why are we listening to this? I mean, yeah, obviously it is like the some guy argument, yeah. And that's why people are getting mad. Some guy is getting paid for shoveling up the safest opinions of, well, it's 7 out of 10, it's good. Because you are afraid to tell AAA developer that their games suck ass. Because you wouldn't get early review codes. You wouldn't be flown to some special events. You wouldn't be getting special privileges. You will be barred from moving up on the career ladder through the company. Jesus
but because
Christ,
the average
man.
games journalist is able to play more video games than the average reader, it's kind of another reason that a review is just some fucking guy's opinion. What somebody who has played 1,000 games thinks of a game is inherently going to be different to what somebody who's only played 100 games thinks of a game, because you are coming into that with that wealth of knowledge, experience, and
that is the same as reading thousands books and watching thousands films. But just by definition, you have a way broader look on how the industry works, so you can dissect things better. Someone who watched 10,000 movies from good to bad would at least know what a good and bad camera work, for example, is, than someone who watched 100 movies. It's a given. Unless you're just doing it brain off, not even thinking about the media you're consuming. Which, hey, if that's that, again, you shouldn't be writing about games.
Those set your expectations. Like, you might find something bland or generic because you've played 10 other games like it. If someone has played less games than you, they may not feel that way. Imagine somebody playing Star Wars Outlaws as their very first Ubisoft game. I myself was like, I'm kind of burnt out of Star Wars. I'm kind of burnt out with the Ubisoft formula right now. This feels very samey.
Why are we talking about this as in you cannot recommend other games? Why wouldn't you say there are 10 other games that are doing this better? 6 out of 10 if you want to be safer. It's a little better than average, but other games did it better. Why are we talking about this? Why is this inherently a problem that you cannot point at some other different game and say, hey, there's 10 more games that did this better. Play those games. Don't waste your time on this one, because it is an inferior product. What are we talking about? Why can't we? I'm gonna be waiting for an explanation here. Let's
It's not
see.
grabbing me, so I tried, and I decided that I wasn't going to play any more of it. But someone who's never played a Ubisoft game before might be like, holy shit, this is crazy. What is this?
Yes, someone who eats bread for a living would go fucking nuts if they saw like a, I don't know, fucking clown meat bologna. No shit. No shit. Why are we even using this as an argument? This isn't the argument. You are qualified to talk about games. You should be saying that this game is shallow. There are way better products there. Don't waste your time on this game. Play other games. Someone might think that this is a good game because they only played one video game. And show them that there are better games. What the fuck?
This. We're all just a bunch of guys who have just fucking opinions.
Again, this is
so
just
subjective,
deflection for
and
no
it's
reason.
impossible not to be subjective. You're inherently bringing all of the experiences that you have had into every opinion that you form on pretty much everything. And that's why reviews...
Yes, and again, that's how criticism anyway works. You can look at things objectively as to why it was put there as a game design or something. You can look at how the game was made. You can look at the bugs. You can look at how mechanics work, you know? Bad stealth and good stealth is very easy. It's clear anyone who writes reviews for games at IGN have universally shit takes. I've seen couple okay ones, but usually, in vast majority of cases, it is very bad. It is either super safe, like it's a universally liked game, and they don't really say anything, because I would like to see a flawed game being like 7, but being still recommended. If because a lot of games that I played and I like, they are very janky. I like janky games, you know. Would I say that they are perfect? To me, maybe it's a good experience. You know, I played Corpus Ex. I think that this game was worth it. It was great. I spent my time and I had a lot of fun. Is this a broken mess? Yes. It is maybe overbloated with mechanics? Yeah. They have the mechanics. They're not really relevant to the game. Dialogue system kind of is not there. It's very simplistic in story department. Level design is okay, but it's, you know, the game is very linear. The RPG system is pretty much redundant. I still had fun, and I can point out the weaknesses of the game and say that, okay, this 7 game is worth it if you can tolerate jank. But for me, this game would be at least 8. You know, for someone who never played those janky games, I would say that this game is like 5. So it's not that hard.
These are what they are. They're just an opinion. Secondly, I think there's a misconception that 5 is supposed to mean average on the scales, where it doesn't, at least not on any that I've ever seen. A 5 for IGN means mediocre. They describe it as something that is bland and...
Yeah, I mean, Star Wars game is mediocre and bland. Hello?
Unremarkable. And I guess with that definition, I wouldn't be like super uncomfortable personally categorizing Star Wars Outlaws that way, maybe. I haven't played enough that I feel confident saying that. But that becomes complicated when you realize how many games do fit below the 5 category, and that's kind of the point of this video. 5 is not...
There are a lot of bad games, so we cannot put bad games to 5 because they are better than bad games.
Not actually baseline average, and it makes sense that most scores that these outlets give
I
going
remember
to be
this.
above a 5,
This made me
in
super
comparison
mad.
to the amount of video games that come out, the AAA games that people are playing, the games that are popular enough for people to even be talking about them, for somebody to need to write a review about them, are going to be in that upper category. Like, there are so many video games that come out. And the truth is, most games that release are very, 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 very flawed. Most games that come out don't even have an...
So yeah, because indie games exist, AAA games should be treated as better games by default. That's the take. You know, that's the take. We are, again, fully discounting the amount of time and effort the company sent into it and how much the game costs. The games, they are not the same in cost. Something that was released by one guy for $2 that is kinda shit is not the same as a big corporation churning out slop for 70+ euros or dollars. And it's like, what is this take? You should be treating product as other AAA games, for example. What's the problem? You don't need to automatically assume that these games are in the same category. Even if we're talking about Ubisoft games, again, there are better Ubisoft games that you can look at, point your finger and say, this game did it better in every single regard.
Inch of the complexity
It's gonna be,
that you see in something like Star Wars Outlaws.
again, complexity. So let's go back.
Very, very flawed. Most games that come out don't even have an inch of the complexity that you see in something like Star Wars Outlaws. And
Inch of the complexity. So bloating game mechanics into one game is complexity. And which means that simple and effective games like, Mario Brothers, for example, it's a bad game now, worse than Star Wars, because in Star Wars, there is more mechanics bloated into the game. The chess, the critically acclaimed, timeless game, nah, it sucks, because Star Wars Outlaw got a big open world and you can hide in grass for stealth. She's not hiding a bias? Of course not. She is working in the industry. She's not a reviewer. I think she's working in the industry somewhere. I don't remember where exactly, but she is working within the industry. She is the industry.
you may take that with some kind of like offense, as though you think that Star Wars Outlaws is not complex. And that would be totally fair if you compare it to everything else that you've played. But if you compare it to the games that come out, it has incredibly complex systems.
Again, let's compare it to Dwarf Fortress, the game that is still coming out. It's not done even. Why are we talking about this? You shouldn't compare these games like that. That's fucking dumb. It's like saying that every single movie is worse than Santa Barbara because of how many episodes Santa Barbara has and how many things happen there. It's better than, for example, I don't know, War and Peace. It is better than anything else just because there's more of it. And there were a lot of events happening and a lot of characters. This is a take that is just, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Why is this even a take? Like, complexity. Games shouldn't be complex for them to be fun. Just saying. Just saying.
Most games aren't even close to that level of complexity. Most games that release
They also
have one song, they have maybe two
They also don't cost an arm and a fucking leg to play.
inputs, they have very few mechanics. They're just, you kind of press the same button over and over and over again. A lot of them crash all the time. They're very buggy. Sometimes they don't even have music. Most games that come out do not have even like an inch of the complexity or nuance that you are used to.
And they are bad?
in
Okay,
AAA.
okay, let's just
Bad
say they are
UI,
bad.
Unintuitive controls.
Okay.
Just all of the things that net them somewhere between 1 to 5 on
Yeah.
a game review scale. That means that they kind of need the space for the 5 to 10 for the other games.
No.
We're basically at a point where hundreds, if not thousands of
No. You just don't need to do that. You just don't need to do that. What is this? Like, if there are bad games, you cannot put games that are more complex to the bad game because something is worse always. That's just wrong.
games are released every single day, usually from one-person teams who do not do it full-time. You don't even hear about these games, but I'm going to do an experiment for you all right now.
This
I'm going
made
to
me
boot up
super
the 3
mad.
most recent releases on Steam and play them for you right now. I don't know what they are. This is not rehearsed. It's not going to be the games on the bestsellers list, just the most recent releases, new releases on Steam, and I will show you exactly what I'm talking about, of like what majority of video games.
We're going to be comparing a full-blown AAA release with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people working on them, with R&D, with just everything in there, against a one-man project that costs a fraction of this game, not even 10% of the game, probably. We'll see the
that
pricing.
release actually look like. Okay, everybody, I've downloaded.
Let's see those games. This one is $4 without a sale, which means it is not even 1/10 of a price of a Star Wars game. It is like 1/16 or something. I don't, quick maths, I don't know. 1/17 of a Star Wars game. This one.
The 3 most recent releases on Steam, they are Doll Catching Simulator, Future Breach, Youngblood, which is free to play, so that's pretty cool, and Zool Dungeon. Let's
Stop zooming in there. Let's just go back again.
Okay, everybody, I've downloaded the 3 most recent releases on Steam. They are Doll Catching Simulator.
$2.69 on sale. This is $3. So she is going to be comparing a $3 game to a full-blown AAA release. Very fair comparison. Very fair.
Future Breach, Youngblood, which is free to play, so that's pretty cool, and Zool Dungeon. Let's start with Doll Catching Simulator. I need settings so I can... It immediately crashed. Tried to change the aspect ratio and it immediately crashed. This time it didn't even have a menu. Cat? Oh, AD key, switch the claw machine. Enter key select. Okay, here we go. Enter key inserts coins. Enter. AD keys move space. This has physics, which is actually pretty cool. Enter.
This has physics. You don't play too many indie games, huh?
Just like in real life. They've nailed it, to be honest. Pick it up. Pick it up. We got a cat! Huge! Am I the world's first... What was it called? Doll Catching Simulator speedrunner? I might be. I feel like that's maybe it. I did get a couple of cats. Look at me go. I like this.
We're watching a video of where she is trying to say that the latest Star Wars is not as bad and why IGN rates things 7 out of 10 even if the games are shit.
Cool. That is Doll Catching Simulator. It functions, to be honest, very simple.
One person. That was by one person.
The art is not great, but it works. 7 out of 10. Next, we have...
And let's compare this game to Vampire Survivors, for example, before the price change up. They're in the same position there. And instantly there's gonna be problems, you know? Yeah, games are... Even then, the games are a little different. It doesn't matter. The shitty game is gonna be shitty game for 70 or $3. And now this one is the one that made me very concerned about this video. Just look.
Zool Dungeon. I have no idea what this is. Trap? Zool, not enough.
Let's see.
Unlock
Let's see.
trap
Unedited. It's
okay,
like...
okay. Right click to spawn your monster. Click him. Spawn him. Click him. Spawn him. What's the timer for? Why am I being timed? The surviving hunter, 100 destroy hunter camps. I'm earning money, I think, maybe? Oh, this text. Increase base HP, PT on summon. Increase movement speed on... Oh, yeah, okay. I can wait. I can give him little buffs. That's cool. So now we got like a jacked up Hobu. Am I trying to kill these guys? Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, got it. I think this is... Maybe I just spawn these in to kill these dudes. Oh, did I lose? Well, that's Zool Dungeon.
This is all time she gave to the game. She just pressed the game, randomly pressed some buttons, lost once, and said, well, that's the game. That's the amount of time she spent playing this game. She doesn't know shit about this. She doesn't know anything about this game. She spawned one monster and clicked some random upgrades. Clicked on the floor a couple of times, and that's it. That's all the time she spent within the game to compare it to a titan of the gaming industry.
Compelling. Last but not least is Future.
That's all. Compelling. That's all. There we go. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Next game. It may be 10 times more complex than what she has shown, but we will never know. Now the next game.
Youngblood, a game that is apparently made with Unity.
It's a
game? Hello.
It's a demo that she's gonna skip.
Gameplay later versions will... Oh, okay. Hang on. I can't do this one. As it turns out, Future Breach Youngblood was just a demo, so...
Why can't we do that? No idea. But it's okay.
Steam store, rather. And we will get... Deep in the dungeon. I need to reach floor 240 to escape from here. Okay. I like the music.
So, let's see.
Not something I could see myself playing for a super long time. At this rate, but it's really just arrow keys, which means you can move.
She's just pressing buttons here. She just goes down.
I think I could see myself playing for a super long time.
She just goes here.
At this rate,
you know, kills the slime, whatever. You lose HP. You go down, you get HP. Really just goes down, loses more HP.
Arrow keys, which means you
goes down, loses more HP. just pressing down here.
You can move through it pretty fast, and it's, you know what, it's pretty fun. It's not bad.
You have no idea what this game has. You have no idea the complexity this game has. You have no idea the strategy you can develop in this game. You just pressed an arrow down there, pressed it 5 times, ate shit, didn't even try. And you're using this as an example of these games that are getting released on Steam, they are usually worse than Star Wars. Is this game worse than Star Wars? I have no idea if it's worse than Star Wars Outlaws. I have no idea, because I didn't see the game. You didn't see the game either. You have no idea what it is. You just pressed the button randomly and said, well, it's okay.
Get the idea. Probably the top 10 looks like that kind of thing. Maybe even more than that. And websites like IGN have to effectively reserve the lower half of their scales for those.
You're also not reviewing those games. Let's be honest. You are not reviewing those games. You're not reviewing those games. You are pretty much not going through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of games released on Steam every single day to review them. You're not doing that. We can open IGN and look at all of the reviews, and I guarantee you we will not find a review from either of those games. We won't, because they're not getting reviewed.
Those games, because those games
They gotta be reserved for those games. You are not reviewing those games anyway.
exist. They just very rarely review them because most people don't know what they are. Like, if people aren't searching for them, people aren't really trying to figure out if they need to buy them or not, so you don't really need to write a review for them.
Then why are you trying to compare these games to whatever slop you are trying to keep at the 7? I don't get it. If these games are irrelevant because they're not getting reviewed, but you're still using them as an example, why? Why, if they are irrelevant?
But in case one goes viral, like the day before, for example, very bad basic video game, they still need to have that bottom half of the scale there for those games.
It was a scam game that promised one thing and released in another scale. It's not that it was a bad game per se. It was also a scam. Yeah, I mean, this is 100% just show, like, well, this game is she's sacrificing and shitting on those games just to show actually it's not too bad for Star Wars. We have no idea. We have no idea. Those games might be pretty good. I've played a lot of, as people say, pixel shit games that are very good. One of them is a game that's named Vampire Survivors, and you know how many people played Vampire Survivors at this point? A ton. It spawned a new genre. Yeah, maybe it straight up copied another game like on the phone, but it got to the point where it spawned a new genre anyway. And the game is just about walking. And it's still more complex with its fucking secrets and progression there than anything that Ubisoft produced in God knows how many years. Because it's all copy-pasted bullshit. We have no idea how complex those games are or will ever be. Because she played them for 2 minutes and didn't get into the game. That makes me mad. Those games might be actually very good, and we would know, because she's just using them to sacrifice them because they look pretty simple.
And when you consider how many games are like that, it starts to make a little more sense why you keep seeing AAA games on the other half of the scale.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It just doesn't. It doesn't make any fucking sense to put those games higher. It doesn't. Especially at a 7.
The breadth of the scale that is being considered. AAA games are inherently a lot more complex than majority of the games that come out.
Yes, and that game was $3 compared to $70+ for a slop that is just bad. I wonder if there's an expression that explains the shit she's trying to pull. There is probably a tactic like deflection by something, you know, because she is just using really flawed arguments here. It is really flawed. Because again, yes, this game looks less complex. It also isn't $70. And it also might be hundreds of hours of entertainment for some people. And you wouldn't know, because you're just using them as a throwaway. Well, look at those games. They look very simple, right? So the other game is better, right? No.
every day, so they are far, far, far more deserving of the top 5 part of that scale. The scale is not just AAA. Does that make sense? Am I articulating this?
No.
I remember when Diablo 4 got massively review bombed by the user ratings, maybe a month or so after it came
You know
out,
why?
which was deserved. They
Okay.
made some disappointing changes, but people were giving it like a 2 out of 10 and calling games journalists shills because they weren't giving it 2 out of 10. But when you see the games that I just showed you, and then you compare it to something like Diablo 4, which
It still might be better than Diablo 4 in every single way perceivable because you didn't show shit. You didn't show shit. It's like showing Diablo 1 for 2 seconds and saying, okay, look, it's way less complex than Diablo 4. Diablo 1 still shits on Diablo 4. This is maddening. This is like actual fucking madness.
has complex systems and enemies and classes and a ton of progression and music and sound design and art. You can see why it doesn't really exist in the same realm as a lot of the 2s that come out.
It also doesn't cost $3. I'm gonna pop a blood vessel or something. I'm losing my gourd for 100%. I'm like, oh, this is a good video, man.
Out every day, it was functional, and it had this cool feature where you could actually play it for more than 5 minutes without being extremely bored. Basically,
Again, she never played the game for more than 5 minutes there. And just dismissed it. There are more games you can play for 5 minutes and not get bored. That doesn't mean that Diablo 4 is good or bad because some other game is, well, it's like not very good. And it's pretty much, well, like 5 minutes and boring and it's pixel and it's kind of shit. That doesn't mean Diablo 4 is better or good money investment. If you consider that Path of Exile is free, that there are games in the same genre that are way better that you can compare to and say that Diablo 4 is not worth your money because there are way better games and compared to them, this game is worse. Because you usually compare games in one fucking genre. Because by this definition, again, you just said that chess is a bad game.
Steam is full of a lot of things that like barely count as video games for what the general public understands a video game to be, and most of them aren't even really worth reviewing. But the scale has to still exist for them. And it's like, I get why if you've only played AAA games, if you only played really, really popular games that do rise above, you know, the schlock of majority of the stuff that comes out.
So let's go back here, around here, where she was talking about the scale as it's scrolling here, that IGN, for example, does not rate games in one or the other way. It's not an objective score, whatever. Why are we reserving the bottom score for that, for games that are bad in quality, if you said that it is all subjective? Then this scale doesn't make any sense then. If it was personal enjoyment of someone who played the game, they might enjoy $3 game way more than the fucking Star Wars game. I'm gonna lose it. So your entire argument is that objectively there are bad games, but AAA games cannot be objectively bad because it's all subjective opinions? And this scale is not objective, but objectively the bottom part should be reserved for bad games that are made on Steam for a couple of dollars because they're not as complex as Star Wars game? I'm like trying to grasp the reality of this video, and it's driving me insane. It is driving me insane.
You would have a skewed perception of what the scale looks like. Your scale is probably different to the scale of some other fucking guy based on just what you've played, where reviewers often have played a lot of stuff that falls on the lower half of that scale and is the reason the lower half of that scale exists. I think you could pretty easily
I've played some really bad games. I've played some shit-ass games. I've played some games that are not even worth to be called games. And yet, I would still call a AAA game bad on the scale of bad to masterpiece, just based like 5 as a mediocre game, as you said so. Star Wars Outlaws is a mediocre game with nothing that is rising it up above any other game in this genre because some other games would be doing better. It is mediocre in its field. Why are we pretending that somehow pixel shit on Steam is comparable still? I don't get it. Like if the scale is like bad, mediocre, masterpiece, how is that game can be considered good? I don't know what this video is based off, but I've really heard bad take. My God, this video. She's trying to explain why 7 out of 10 reviews are so plentiful and why it's all good that they exist. And the main reasoning is worse games exist on Steam that get released every single day. So the bottom half of the scale should be based on bad games. Because Star Wars Outlaws is mechanically more complex than something that gets released on Steam. We are discounting pricing, we're discounting anything else, and we're taking shit on games that are, solely focused on something, like, again, chess. By definition, she's saying that chess is a way worse experience in a game than something like Star Wars Outlaws, because Star Wars Outlaws is more complex. This is a brain rot of a video.
Make a case that they should just not touch those lower half games at all, and that you could like have a scale just for AAA games and they could be two separate things. But I think that would also be pretty complicated to explain to audiences in a lot of cases.
How is this going to be complicated to explain? Because there is pricing as an anchor point for you to judge the game if it's worth the label of a good game or not. Something for $2 that is good and you can play for 10 hours is not something that you can buy for 90 with like deluxe edition and play it for 50 hours and be like, wow, I hate this. There's nothing good in this game. There are different price points anyway. Why not use this as an anchor? It's already there. This video is
where I feel like it's probably easier to explain, no, a 0 or a 1 or a 2 is for games that don't function. Diablo 4 making changes that negatively impact the game didn't make it completely non-functional, or didn't make it so that the only thing you could do was like play a claw machine. You know what I mean? But yeah, you could certainly...
So you are taking some guy that was upset with the game and say that 2 there doesn't make any sense? But this video is about truth about all the 7 out of 10 game reviews. Diablo 4 was a pretty bad experience because from day one release, it was just not enough in any sense of the word. The build variety was not enough. The end game was not enough. There was just not enough game for people that like this genre to latch onto, which makes it a bad game within that genre. You're not you're not looking at this game and then looking at Cookie Clicker and saying that, okay, Cookie Clicker and this game, we can compare them. No, you cannot. And Cookie Clicker, by the way, is a million times better than Diablo 4. That's not the point. We cannot take games from different genres and price points and compare them fairly. It will, by definition, be separating those games. Like, come on. If you're being served like a mountain of shit for $70, or if you're just getting like 1/3 for $3, I think we can still say that both of those are shit on the scale, okay? But I'm genuinely losing it.
I'll argue for that if you wanted to. Go ahead. I'm just explaining why it currently exists the way that it does. And to be clear, I'm not trying to defend IGN
You
in
didn't
making
explain
this video in any
shit.
capacity. Even when I worked there, they had game reviews come out that I staunchly disagreed with. When I worked there, they had the Doom 2016 review, which was written by a freelancer who gave it was like an insane low score. Yeah, it was a 7.1 for Doom 2016. And I remember like everyone in the office being like, do not fucking agree with that at all. But it was from Joe Gilroy, who did not even work in the IGN office, a total freelancer. I don't think he even wrote for IGN very often, like maybe 1 or 2 times. I'm not actually sure. But like they've certainly had review scores that I fundamentally disagreed with. And
review scores that I fundamentally disagreed with. for something to have a fundamental basis, that there should be something objective there. Saying that you fundamentally disagree with someone's opinion, it then doesn't really make sense. You can disagree with opinion, but saying that fundamentally you disagree with this opinion is a little weird. Which we circle back to you saying all the game review guys are just some guys. We don't need to even think about it. And you're using a shitty review of a Doom game from someone who never played a Doom game, or like a FPS or whatever, a shitty review, and saying that it's all fine, it's this guy's opinion. Why are we taking someone who is underqualified, who never played games of this type, and then take their opinion as something? Why? Why? Yeah, you disagree with them because it might be wrong. Because I never read that review. Maybe it's right. Maybe it's wrong. Who knows? I wouldn't say that the Doom 2016 was a 7 out of 10 game. No way. But does that make it like objective truth? You can find common ground with people who play FPS games like that. You can find boomer shooter enjoyers who will be like, okay, this game works because this, and this. This game does not work because this, and this. You have to find someone within the field of video gaming who specifically play those experiences and have a lot of experience within that sphere, for them to give you the deconstruction of why something is good or bad. They might like something different in the same genre, of course, but at least they can articulate why they don't like it. In saying that, and mind you, we're still, the topic of this video is the truth about all the 7 out of 10 game reviews. And the only take that we've heard that excuses it is Steam releases really bad games every day, so we cannot put AAA games there because those games are worse. And again, we're discounting the price point, the dev team, the development time, whatever. We're discounting all that, and we're just comparing 1-to-1 because this game is more complex, which again brings us to a point where games that are pretty much like, let's go to Disco Elysium. Disco Elysium is a good example of a pretty good game. I would say that's one of the games I would rate as a 10, like a strong 10, not less, not more. It is 10. It is 10 for me. It is a good game. Mechanically, the game is not complex at all. There is nothing you are doing in that game aside from clicking on things, reading dialogue, and trying to roll for checks. Nothing. The map is pretty, it's pretty small compared to most of the other RPGs. It's not a huge world. There's not different class variety. There's no gearing of any sort. There's not a huge talent tree. I mean, there is, but mostly it's just for rolls and check and characterizing. And that game is less complex than Star Wars, therefore it's worse. You are out of your mind to use this as a defense for anything, because it doesn't make any sense.
That's just sort of the reality of reviews being just written by some fucking guy. But yes, this is essentially why you might feel like you see so many review scores that are above a 5, or you feel like the lower half of the scale is being underutilized. It's why 7s feel like it might be average, and why I've heard people like call to change the 7 to a 5. But
Yes,
it's just when you factor in
happen.
games that you probably haven't played or probably haven't heard of, the bottom of the scale gets very, very, very full very fast, and your AAA games start.
I'm gonna be honest, I probably played way more games than you did in my life. Doesn't matter. I would say that some games that I enjoyed would be 5. I would say that some games that I've enjoyed personally would be like 4 or 3. Divine Cybermancy is a good game. It is an experience. Is it a good? Is it like a solid product? Hell no. It is average? Hell no. It's worse than average. It is bugged as shit. It is convoluted. The translation is broken. The game breaks every 5 minutes as you're playing it. Is this still an experience that I think is worth trying out? Yes. Objectively, it is a broken game. Subjectively, it is a masterpiece. Why can't it be both? Why are we holding this game to like, okay, this is better because those games are worse. I can say that some games that I enjoyed are worse than 5. So what? And yeah, I know so what, and we all know so what, and she will get into this point, but game journals are shills. They are big shills, and we all know that they are shilling for the game. And we all know that they are afraid to step a little bit too much on some AAA studios to give it a bad score, because they will be barred from some events, they will be barred from getting review codes, they will be barred from taking a writer and flying them out to some event for them to write something, you know. I mean, yeah, that's the thing. They are very biased. They are very biased because they are working within the industry, and a lot of people would love to escape the writing job at IGN and start working in the industry proper. And we all know that. She knows that. But it's a quiet part that she is too afraid to say, and she will try to make excuses for it too. Just a little bit of a spoiler.
Start to look a whole lot better in comparison. And finally, I know that this isn't going to sway anybody.
Yeah, let's
who,
go. That's the one.
Already feels some way about this, but just to establish it, no publisher is giving an IGN reviewer a bunch of money to influence a review score.
We all know that they don't give you monetary incentive to review a game and give it a good score. That's not what people are saying, that you're shilling for the game. You're not being paid for the review in money. You're being paid in opportunities for the future writing gigs. You want to be on good side of the game publisher because you will get a early access to reviewing something, which means more clicks, which means more attention, which means that's how money is made. And you are too afraid to give something less than a 7 because it would upset someone. You could say that, oh, 7 is flawed, but it's still a good experience. This is why you're giving it a 7. That is why. Stop pretending that it doesn't happen. We all know it does.
There are ways that companies try to manipulate positive review scores in ways that I think are extremely egregious and actually far worse than I think the general public realizes. Like, this
I think we all know.
stuff is huge. I'm gonna make a whole separate video about this. I was gonna put it in this video, but then it's like too many topics in one video. It's a lot. I will make a separate video about basically like publishers, companies trying to influence people to get positive reviews and the manipulative tactics that are used for that. There is so much to say and so much to unpack. But we're just handing somebody money to give a game a score, which, by the way, as an aside, I've seen people recently suggest that IGN was paid to give Star Wars Outlaws the 7 out of 10. Why would you be so pay for a 7? A 7?
Again, because 7 is something you can work around and say that, you know, it's not bad, it's worth it, they can fix it, they will patch it. Look at Cyberpunk. When the game released, I would give this game, it's less than mediocre, it was pretty much broken in every skill that you can do, it would soft lock you in a lot of quests. To me, it would make sense to give this game a fucking 3. Because fundamentally in gameplay, the game was just super broken. Now, if you give it a 7 and say, it's a flawed experience, people would still buy it and say that, oh, you know what, I enjoyed a lot of 7 games. And they still have, ways to improve. Of course they will try to give you incentive to give you a 7. Because 7 is a score you can work with. Do you think we're all stupid?
Paying a reviewer, you couldn't just slip them, like, company like Ubisoft with a shit ton of money, just like another 50 grand or whatever the fuck, and be like, just make it a 10. Why would?
Because 10 is very obvious that it was paid when the game is 5. Why are we even talking about this?
They pay for a 7. But handing somebody money to give any review score is extremely illegal. And these...
You heard it here, folks. If something is illegal, it never happens. No company would do something illegal. No way. The law is above all. You guys should follow the law at any point, and there's no crimes being committed by anyone because law exists. You just heard it. The company breaking the law, they could never. This would never happen. No way, no way. I can't believe that this is an argument. Still, this video is a roller coaster of emotions for me. It's just insanity.
These companies have giant legal teams who are so hardcore and
why do they have legal teams, I wonder? Maybe they are here to also help them escape some messed up stuff they could have done under the hood that we don't see. Oh, I wonder why.
So intense about this kind of stuff. Their whole job is to prevent the company from getting sued or getting fined. That is the job of these legal departments. I have worked
From getting sued and getting fined, yes. Find the loopholes as well.
with some
Oh
of these
my
legal
God.
departments. They are annoyingly hardcore. Stupid legal rules where they try to avoid getting sued for the dumbest shit that you're like, nobody's going to sue you for that. And they're like, doesn't matter. Somebody could, so don't do it. Paying somebody to have positive sentiment, even if you disclose it, is illegal. Did you know that? So like if I do a sponsored ad here
There we go. Now we're getting into a sponsored segments.
on YouTube, they cannot ask me to say something that I don't believe. They
Yes, but they still write you a script, and they send you a script of things you should read, which is why every Raid Shadow Legends ad plug is the same. You can hear that it's a great game. It is free to play. I play this game on and off myself. I have a clan. Use my code to play the game. It is this experience or that experience. They all say the same things. You know why they say the same things? Because they were paid promotional for promotion of the game, and they got sent the fucking script that they should read. What do you mean you cannot pay for people to say that it's a positive experience if you don't agree with? Yeah, you can not take the money, but you can as well take the money and just lie. Is this real life? Is this real life?
are not allowed to ever say, hey, can you say this sentence? I think I've received pushback on
It's a decent game if you're a hopeless gacha gambler. I mean, if you're a hopeless gacha gambler, you wouldn't be playing Raid Shadow Legends, let's be honest. You would be playing some waifu game, because they are like 10 times better maintained and 10 times more fair to you. Just saying. There's, like, if we're comparing gacha games, why would you play Raid over Blue Archive, for example? Because they are very similar in gameplay. They are auto battlers. But why would you ever?
on that maybe once where they were like, can you say that? And I was like, I don't feel that way. And they had to be like, okay, they are not allowed to do that. That is very, very...
They are not allowed. Guys, it's illegal. You heard it first. It's illegal. No one pays for any reviews or positive coverage. I did play Raid. I like the unit. Yeah. I'm saying that people that praise this game in a lot of sponsor plugs say the same thing one-to-one, verbatim. They are praising the game for same points. They are, telling you to use the code and to use this epic character that can carry you through whatever. A lot of them, at least half of them, say that they play the game themselves and they have a clan, you can join. I actually play this game when I'm editing my videos. I'm actually playing this game when I'm just out and, I don't know, riding a train or something. Hear somebody say this thing is good, okay? This thing is good, it's so easy. No, I'm saying that a lot of people who are shilling for the game, they're giving the script. You can like the game, obviously. That's not the point. She is saying that you cannot pay for positive coverage because it is illegal. But you see people saying the same script over and over and over again. That is just insanity. Yes, you can pay for positive coverage. Yes, it goes under the hood. Try to prove that someone didn't enjoy Raid.
very, very illegal and taken very, very seriously. So paying for positive sentiment without disclosure is going to get you fined, but even with disclosure, also going to get you fined. Like, extremely illegal, again, taken very seriously. And asking games journalists specifically to lie about review scores, I think, is one of the dumbest things that a company could possibly do. Like, that's going to come out so fast if it were actually
positivity equals illegal? No. For example, you're getting sent $10,000, and they say that here's a sponsorship. If you want to accept it, you have to say that it's a good game. You can decline it and just be like, no, I don't think it's a good game. Or you can accept it and say that it's a good game because they send you words that you need to read. They send you words that you are to read. They don't care if you think the game is good or not. For you, it also might not matter if you just want the money. That's the thing. The positivity is not illegal. The illegal part is like paying people to promote the game in a positive light. because she's saying that it never happens. It never happens. If you get a sponsorship, you cannot force people to say that the game is good. Imagine sponsoring someone and they're like, that game is shit. What do you mean you cannot pay someone to give you a positive review? That's how sponsorship works. If you're sponsored by something, they usually want you to fluff the product. You are there to be a marketing spokesman person. That's legal though. It's illegal. You can do that.
Happening. It's an industry full of people who are so poorly paid and are often very bored with the stuff that they're able to write from an industry that gives them like no information about anything and is constantly withholding things and just making them like rehash press releases because the games industry is so cagey about information. Frankly, they are desperate a lot of.
I wonder if being cagey about the information and also trying to stay on the good side so they are less cagey about the information is a reason for you to give 7 to a bad game. Makes me really think hard. My neurons.
The time to write the article that gets their name out there or gets views or makes people like them. It gives them the prestige of breaking this huge conspiracy news story. Like so many, I would say 90% of people who work in that games media industry would be frothing, chomping at the bit at the opportunity to leak this story.
And then, if you leak the story, you would also be barred from working within the industry because you are brand unsafe for a lot of people. If you would ever want to break off from the games journalism and start working in the games industry, you would be considered someone who would be leaking private information and you wouldn't get any work there. I wonder why. But yeah, people would be frothing at the mouth. People will be frothing at them. I wonder why they have all those lawyers, huh? Yeah, really makes you think, huh? and then, they would be frothing at the mouth to fight with the legal team and get all the opportunities for the future work absolutely demolished because they want to leak a story. Do you hear yourself? Really now?
If it were happening, it would have leaked 1,000 times over. And
Gamergate happened. It's not even like a AAA stuff, but we already seen some writers being fucking paid with a lot of things, like even sexual fucking things. Okay.
I actually don't doubt that it was happening in the 90s and 2000s before a lot of the more strict regulations came in. Of course, companies are going to try to do it. They just can't anymore. And publishers do have other ways of trying to influence review scores, like I said. I have a whole separate video about that. But they are not giving game reviewers money.
We know. We know that they don't explicitly give you money to say that the game is good. No shit.
A 10 out of 10. Again, just like think about everything you've ever disagreed with somebody on. Think about the dumbest fucking thing that you've seen on the internet that you disagreed with somebody on. Your toilet paper. You put it over or under. Heated disagreements about that stuff. Over is correct, by the way. Anyone who puts it under, I will literally in your house, if I see that you have the toilet paper under,
that's
I will
very
change
funny.
It in your house.
You're deflecting the criticism from some people by trying to trivialize the argument and try to get the false equation to another thing that it doesn't matter, guys. Anyway, forget about review scores. No one's getting paid underhanded. No, this would never happen in any other no. In any capacity, would never happen. Would never happen. It just doesn't happen monetarily. Wink, wink. Games reviews don't matter. It's just by some guys. Anyways, that's why they matter. And I don't know.
I don't care. You and some fucking guy are gonna have different opinions. It's boring, but it's true. And as an aside, on my own aside, I promise you, if I ever find any evidence or any even suggestion that game reviewers are being paid off, I will tell you in a heartbeat. I would get so many subscribers. People would be so happy with me.
So we went
so
through
many views, so
the
much
entire video
credibility.
right now.
Finally outed it. Wow, look at this person go. That's my epics.
And,
instead, I'm doing my routinely dumb bitch move of telling you the truth that I know most of you.
Let's
don't
finish this
hear.
first.
Not most of you. It's just the ones who don't want to hear it, really don't want to hear it, and are definitely going to get mad at me in the comment sections of this video.
Yeah, because it's a shitty video.
In fact, I will probably lose subscribers for this.
Yeah, it's a bad video.
The proven to be excellent strategy of saying the thing the masses would like to hear and make the controversial video that will force people to yell at me. All of that to say, it would be a lot easier for me, or as someone who actually does work in media, to come out and say reviewers are being paid off. If it were happening, they would have done it by now 1,000,000 times over already. I would have done it by now 1,000,000 times over already.
Well,
I don't review games
happening.
that don't accept codes. I have no reason to lie to you about this. It's just not happening.
It's happening.
Some fucking guy. There are also just a bunch of factors where it
The
comes
some
to
fucking guy is writing for a big ass advertisement agency at this point, and they have incentive to give positive coverage because again, you would be getting early game copies from the same publisher, so you can do the same thing again, so you can get paid by clicks because people would be interested to see about the game early. It's that easy.
some
God
fucking guy's
fucking damn it.
opinion, where the person who reviews the game is the most likely to be excited about that game because they put their name down on the sheet where they said they wanted to review it. So they are.
So again, why are we talking about someone giving Doom 7 that you fundamentally disagreed with if they are putting their name there? Does this guy had any expertise? Is there any background checks to be like, what is he playing? Does he even know what the fuck it is? Does it go through editorial to be like, what is this? Does anyone fact checks anything? Like, oh, the reviewer is the most excited guy. I've read the Space Marine 2 review from PC Gamer, I think. It was shit. It was utterly bad. And it wouldn't be utterly bad until I played the game myself. It wouldn't be really obvious because the criticisms that were there are extremely dumb. Extremely dumb.
Likely to be more interested in it. Basically, some fucking guy is probably into the thing that he signed up to play however many hours of and write a review of. That's
just saying that guy maybe is someone who likes Warhammer, but the only other gaming reviews this guy have done, I think, were pretty much RPGs. Just saying.
why he signed up to play it. And my suggestion for people looking for game reviews that they align with is actually to just find an individual or a couple of individuals, a reviewer like one writer or one YouTuber who you really align with and actively seek out their opinions. I don't even feel like it makes sense to read every IGN game review when IGN is just 20 different fucking guys who
loaded
have
word, but
vastly
okay.
different opinions from one another even, and frequently disagree on review scores even as employees of the same company. Like I said, while I worked there, there were review scores that were given out that I really did not agree with, but there's like nothing you can really do about that because I'm not the some fucking guy who reviewed that particular thing. What I do personally is just ask my friends. I don't read reviews at all. Literally never.
Yeah,
they mean nothing.
This is why the industry is in the shitter right now. No one reads reviews. Okay, we can agree on that one.
Whatsoever. And I even felt this way when I worked in that space.
So wait, she just said again that video game scores don't matter. She spent all that time saying that the bottom half should be reserved for this, the upper half should be reserved for that. It's for the average gamer, they don't know. The 7 is good, whatever. And then we're circling back to the point where actually it doesn't matter, just ask your friend. And if it doesn't matter, why are we defending the 7 with any degree of, well, there is a way to look at it. And then you just come out and say that it's still made up. This entire video is so bad, man. It's so bad. Oh my god, it's so bad. Oh no. Oh no.
Ask friends what they think of something
no.
What they like about it and what they didn't like about it. And based on what I know about that friend and what they said they liked or they didn't like, I can make an assessment on whether I will or will not like something. Basically, 7 out of 10 is the average because the scale accounts for the amount of games that do not have even half the complexity.
And that's the one thing, again, have the complexity. Have the complexity. I don't want to compare every single game to Dwarf Fortress because it just every single game in simulation would lose to Dwarf Fortress. Why would I ever do that?
Of most of the games that you play.
Why wouldn't I compare Call of Duty to another Call of Duty game? Why wouldn't I compare Call of Duty to a Battlefield game? Why wouldn't I compare a multiplayer arcade shooter to a multiplayer arcade shooter? Why do I need to take one game and compare it to something that some jerk off made for Steam for $2? Are you dumb? Like, genuinely, I don't even want to offend you or anything or like speak bad. It's just such a dumb take that there's just one thing that is on my mind. Like, are you actually insane? Is there something wrong with you? Because when we are talking about reviewing games, and we're talking about Diablo 4, again, coming back to it, it's not worth a 2. And then she says, well, for some fucking guy, you know, I don't agree with it, but it's there. First of all, then we can throw away all the part about that. Doesn't matter. Still, Diablo 4 is 1% of the game that Path of Exile is. It still loses to Diablo 2 in a lot of ways, In a lot of ways, it even lost to Diablo 3. It's also worse than Grim Dawn in a lot of ways. It's also worse than Titan Quest. There's 20 seconds more. 20 seconds more.
And does need to have the lower half of that scale in case one of those games gets reviewed. Again, I'm not trying to defend that, just trying to explain it
You did defend it.
for anyone who might be interested or like has never thought about it before and was, if this video makes anyone go, oh, yeah, that makes sense, then great. And remember, game reviews are just the opinion of some fucking guy.
Horrible video, man. Horrible. Horrible video. So the only thing that this game has is the complexity is why those games deserve to be a 7. That is pretty much it. What is complexity? Undefined. It's just complexity is there. Everything else undefined. God damn, this is a bad video. Like I watched it before, but it's just very bad. It's so hard to put in words how bad it is because every single argument in this video is pretty much flawed. Because that's not how scales work. It doesn't matter that there are a lot of games that are bad. Why are you saying that these games are bad? Okay, place them in 1. Then place this in mediocre. It is a very mediocre game, but no, it's not mediocre because there are a lot of worse games. All right, then compare it to the games within the same genre. Take all the open world, third-person exploration, whatever the fuck games, and compare one game to another game. Like, compare it within the same genre pool. Is this game worth it compared to other games? If the answer is no for most of it, why are we talking about it? It is mediocre in that category. I think a lot of people would know this. You don't need to explain it. Like, oh, it's all so hard to explain to an average reader. Again, stop taking an average reader to be an absolutely like brain dead baby. I think we all know what the scoring is. The scoring system existed for God knows how many years right now. Oh my god. Oh, no, I can't. I just can't. It's bad. It's bad. Why are we comparing different games? Why are we comparing different genres? Why are we comparing different pricing categories so much? Why can't you just take this game and take into the account every fact about this game? Undercooked, DLC ridden Fiesta that it's still not out, broken on release, has nothing interesting going for it, not any new mechanics, nothing there. It's bad in like animations because they're just broken, not connecting to anything. It's worse than older Assassin's Creed games. We can compare it to Assassin's Creed, like, I don't know, 2. It would still lose on a lot of fronts there. It's an incoherent mess. If we don't want to compare it to that, get some other newer Assassin's Creed. It would suck compared to Odyssey for sure. That's the game I played. Yes, that would be a better game. We can take it and compare it to something else. It is like an open world stealthy kind of game. All right, we can compare it to Metal Gear 5 in gameplay department, for example. It would get absolutely shafted by that game. Shafted, absolutely destroyed. We are humans. We compare our experiences. What happened? Something was good, something was bad, and that's how scales appear. There's something that is bad, there's something that is good, and you weigh it down and kind of put it there. You cannot say that this game is 7 because there's way more ones, and we need to put all the bad games there. It just doesn't work. If you're comparing this game, you're comparing this game to the same category of games, and if it loses on a lot of those, it's just not a quality product compared to something that was already released 10 times over. Why is this getting a 7? It's not good. No, well, someone who never played any Ubisoft games might think this game is good. Why do we care about that guy then? Again, you should have the expertise of playing more games than anyone else, which means you have more experience with more games and how they work, how they are designed, and you should be able to, at least on basic level, have an understanding of why some things within the game works. Gameplay mechanics, why they work, why they don't work. You might not be qualified to critique like audio, like music, for example, but you still might say like, it's forgettable. I didn't feel it. It's still valid. It's a bad video. It's just a bad video, and it never defended anything but saying like, yeah, 7 out of 10 is actually valid because it's good. That's it. It's just good. To me, good is something worth my time. That game, the Star Wars game, it's not worth my time at all. It's not worth time of a lot of people. And that's why people don't like that game and say that it's bad, because they compare it within the same pricing category to same types of games. And it's just not comparable. It's not close. So why are we giving it a good? Because we are reviewing it in vacuum? But again, you're taking all the other games then? Like, if someone who only played a really bad game that you've shown, like this pixel shit game, and they only play that game and it's good for them, do you have any right to say that it's bad? Because then we cannot say that anything is good or bad at all. It's just, oh my god. Like, someone likes to eat shit. Someone enjoys just taking a nice chunk of feces and just shoving it down their throat. Does that mean it's valid and it's good because someone eats shit? Because it's just some guy and we're all some guys? No, it doesn't. It's a bad video. It's just a very bad video.